Who did I think were the biggest sports nutrition brand winners of 2021? It's that time of year again where I make several pieces of content that either recap some aspect of this current year or I put my reputation on the line as a forward leaning strategist and try to make predictions about the next year. So, this piece of content specifically will be the former, and it will surround a sort of rankings for the top sports nutrition brands of 2021. So I think it's important to kind of talk about maybe a rubrics or maybe a lack of rubrics. And I tend to kind of combine both qualitative and quantitative data. I don't have any specific kind of formalized kind of data collection or proprietary technology that hundreds or thousands of brands get plugged into and kind of spits out a number. I try to keep as much of the biases out as possible. That's almost impossible because of my small or kind of lack of bandwidth in the industry. I can't really follow everything, unfortunately. And when you consider kind of the ideology in terms of the industry and its kind of brand creation and brand value that I uphold, that naturally kind of sways me in a certain direction. Another kind of major thing to just mention is that product isn't a main component in my rankings like you would see in most of the other kind of top brand end of year content from the supplement review content creators. I don't necessarily believe there is a best formula, but I do consider product inside the framework of does the brand know how to position that specific product within the market to create the most commercial value, which I believe is much more valuable to understand than just product formulations. And I also started adding in last year one off marketplace dynamics and how brands really were able to tackle those. And I have no fancy award or anything like that. This is just coming from somebody that has an extremely deep understanding of every aspect of the sports nutrition or active nutrition industry. So I hope there is some clout and it holds a little bit of weight in each one of these brands' minds that will be mentioned in this content. So this is the fourth annual list that I have created. So I want to kind of take you down memory lane and discuss the last three lists. In 2018, I had Ghost first, Redcon 1 second, Outright Foods, the maker of Outright Bars, third, Sparta Nutrition fourth, and I might get some slack kind of in hindsight 2020 to that one because they disappeared, but people forget the strength of 2018 from the Sparta Nutrition brand. And then Glanbia Performance Nutrition's brand portfolio was the fifth member of my list. I also had MyoBlocks, the Genius brand, and Man Sports on the honorable mention list. And then in 2019, I had Ghost, Redcon 1, and Outright Foods again in first, second, and third. I had Alani Nu as a new list member in fourth, and then NutriBio that made the fifth spot. I also had First Phorm, Bomar Nutrition, and MyProtein on the honorable mentions list. And then in 2020, I had Ghost winning for the third year in a row. Alani Nu jumped up to second. Redcon 1 slipped to third. MyProtein jumped into the top five. And then Outright Foods slipped to fifth. I also had NutriBio, Glaxon, Hum Nutrition, and First Phorm on the honorable mention list. But let's shift this conversation into 2021 and kind of discuss a little bit around, the marketplace dynamics, the environment that these brands had to deal with. Strategic plans were again shot for 2021. This time, it wasn't the March to May restricted living situation and gym closures that created challenges for sports nutrition brands, but a massive supply chain crisis that drove up input costs and caused material scarcity. Sports or active nutrition brands that were built as more than just a marketing company did perform much better. Diversification also mattered a lot. This is both from a sales channel strategy and from a marketing channel perspective, distribution of your marketing perspective. But almost all sports and active nutrition categories again proved their resiliency in the overall market and really built off the momentum of the back half of 2020. So before I get into the top 5 biggest sports nutrition brand winners of 2021, I did want to start at naming a few honorable mentions. These lists seem to get a little bit bigger each year just because I want to make sure that I give love and props to everybody that is performing in this very difficult and challenging business environment that we've been dealing with in 2020 and 2021. So that first honorable mention brand would be Guerrilla Mind. And I'll be the first to admit that I did not know much about this brand until early 2020. I think that is actually like 3 years into the existence of Guerrilla Mind. And that's mostly because I'm not a fitness influencer, YouTuber, kind of watcher, content consumer. So I didn't know Derek or More Plates, More Dates, and just how powerful his kind of personal brand has become. But throughout last year and then the entirety of 2021, I started to see more social chatter. I saw their Amazon rankings kind of blast up and their web traffic growing substantially. And I don't know too much about the inner workings of the brand. So this is more of a kind of tip of the hat respect about the amount of buzz you were able to create and just kind of giving you a paying attention, and hopefully you can build on that momentum in 2022. The second honorable mention brand is RYSE. And this is no knock on them, but I've always felt like RYSE was one of those brands that the hype around them did not kind of match up to their actual size of their business. That is something that happens a lot in the sports nutrition industry because most are privately held businesses. But while I still see some holes in the RYSE business, they have elevated themselves substantially in 2021. I really liked a lot of their license flavor collaborations, how they executed the creative on them, and the impressive traction that they've been able to create in a national retailer like the Vitamin Shop. Another brand I want to give props to is one that I mentioned last year, and that is Glaxon. I think they had a really great first year. They were able to kind of do a lot of things really creatively that I love. I like that they think outside the box. And they really grew on that in 2021. So not just their kind of unique products, but looking at kind of capitalization of their business much differently, creating strategic partnerships with GNC. They are really creating a foundation for something that could be special in the coming years. The fourth honorable mention brand that I wanted to talk about is Bare Performance Nutrition. And this is a complete sleeper brand, in my opinion. I think Nick Bare has done an extremely good job at building a skate ramp type brand. The first couple of years were kind of slow moving. He really was building up his personal brand and attaching that personal brand to his supplement brand. But now he's created a very strong community and a brand that I think a lot of people should pay a lot more attention to. So if you're an industry professional watching this piece of content, take a look at what Bare Performance Nutrition is doing, and I guarantee you'll be pretty impressed. And then the final honorable mention brand that I wanted to talk about is Cellucor, or just kind of C4 Energy. And this is more of a, I respect the hell out of what you guys did to switch around your brand from being just a marketing-driven supplement company to a hardcore beverage company that is really doing some great things with their C4 Energy. I personally think the C4 Smart Energy product line is one of the best in the 15 billion or so US energy drinks market. Some of their flavors within that line, I think, are at the top of the entire space. And I'm interested to see kind of what they do with all that beverage knowledge now in the next coming years. But without kind of further ado, I want to kind of jump into the biggest sports nutrition brand winners of 2021. And I'm going to start from 5 and go down to 1 because that makes it more interesting. But coming in at number 5 was a brand that I have mentioned on honorable mentions in years prior, but this is Phorm. I believe as the world transitions in this new Web 3.0 environment, communities are going to be extremely valuable. And Phorm in the supplement, sports nutrition, active nutrition space has one of the strongest valuable communities that they've built. There is hardly anybody at their level. And it makes me honestly a little bit disappointed that most of the industry pundits, other kind of content creators, don't talk about Phorm all that much. I think it's a mistake. I don't think they know too much about Phorm. I don't think they understand the power of the brand and maybe what they're actually doing. I think they have some of the best marketing funnels in the industry. Company culture is through the roof. I think leadership at that company is extremely strong. They are bought into the long term core values of the company and improving people's lives. And while maybe people will knock some of the products and maybe think, hey, there's better things out there, as I mentioned earlier in this piece of content, it's about understanding how your products match up to your consumer base, understanding how you're positioned correctly to create most amount of value in your consumers' lives, but not over engineering everything. I believe few brands really ever get to the level of what First Form is building, and what they're doing is damn impressive. Now, number 4 on the 2020 list is Redcon One, and the company has slipped kind of again this year. And for me, it's coming from kind of a lack of like momentum or buzz that had been at a very historic level. It's hard to kind of continuously have that level of momentum and buzz within your brand. Like many of the hyper growth brands within the industry, Redcon One did face some kind of inventory issues this year. They kind of did whatever they could to improve that, even selling a minority share of the company to create some more capitalization in the business, be able to order more inventory and fund some of these growth initiatives. Redcon One also did shift a lot of their like sales channel strategy and being in less buzzy kind of areas and focusing on very large retailers like Walmart. I personally love that idea, but it is a much less flashy way to build year over year incremental revenue growth. And while the kind of gym expansion and then the kind of recovery center also kind of attaching to that could be seen as maybe a lack of focus, their goal of kind of franchising that and growing that out, nationally, internationally, maybe even bigger than that, could be seen as a negative. But I believe if they do expand that in a pretty strategic, controlled way, it does add a lot of like experiential aspects to the brand and will strengthen the company over time. But in a nutshell, Redcon One had much more ups than downs this year and overall had a very impressive year again. The number 3 biggest sports nutrition brand winner of 2021 was MyProtein, had them kind of jumping up in the rankings again this year. And though this kind of ranking system is generally through the American market, I am based in America, so I understand that the most. I tend to make an exception for MyProtein because of just how damn impressive their international growth has been. The Hut Group, or like THG nutrition segment of the company, which is mostly MyProtein and some of their sub brands, will add between $125 to $150 million in incremental year over year revenue this year. I mean, that is extremely impressive. It's a revenue base that 99% of the sports nutrition brands will never actually even reach, and they were able to create that in an incremental revenue growth in 1 year. I believe they have a top 1 to 2 globalization strategy, the other one being Herbalife, where they're able to do things in a way and kind of go to market quicker than anybody across the international markets. That's because outside of Glambia, they have probably the most impressive vertical integration assets. And then when you add in kind of the bigger THG resources, and especially the THG Ingenuity resources, they become the Amazon of the sports nutrition market. They've built a flywheel that is starting to spin extremely fast and have all the different aspects of their business that are unmatched in terms of the resources they have to create digital growth. The number 2 brand on this year's list is Alani Nu. And every year it kind of seems like I get shit for putting them on the list. Don't really understand why. Honestly, I believe it comes from a place of jealousy. A lot of people in the space, entrepreneurs, kind of wish that they could be Alani Nu and create the amount of commercial value, enterprise value that they've been able to create in the first couple of years of their business. This is a level in the space that few can ever kind of dream of. I think some of those large retail launches, especially with the energy drinks that I talked about in late 2020, have proved out to be extremely successful in 2021. The rebrand that I talked about last year has proven to be extremely effective in the market, especially with acquiring new mainstream buyers. Moving away from GNC exclusivity with some of the supplements and things like that has proved successful as well. My only kind of knock on Alani Nu this year is that I think they expanded their beverage offerings, their categories too quickly. I'm not all that upset about the hard seltzer offering. I think that's unique and interesting. I think they took an extreme kind of risk there, but it seems to be doing pretty well. But they also moved into non alcoholic sparkling water, also a still hydration kind of electrolyte water as well. And these are very distinct offerings. You also have to consider that they're growing the energy drinks in these large retail channels for kind of the first 4 years. So you have three distinct beverage categories that have much different needs in each category, much different competitors and all those types of things. And it makes me kind of worried that they're trying to bite off more than they can chew, and they're going to be leaving some different opportunities on the table by not focusing their attention. It's a big ask for any kind of beverage company, and Alani Nu is not a beverage company. If you think about it, even though they do own a good amount of their DSD distribution through some of the portfolio holdings and things like that, but not having one of those like major beverage distribution companies like Coca-Cola Company, Keurig Dr. Pepper, PepsiCo, Molson Coors, AB InBev, anything like that. Everything that Alani Nu is doing is a lot more heavier lifting and a lot more risky in terms of what they're doing. I applaud any entrepreneur that is taking on the risk that they are. So super props to that. Love the guys over there. Love the aggressiveness that is within the culture of that company. And it's hard to match the type of year that Alani Nu had in 2021. So who was my top brand in 2021? Probably no surprise by this point. It is, again, Ghost Lifestyle. And I'll kind of start off by asking myself a question and saying, was this as impressive from a 365-day performance? And I'm going to say no, and that's respectfully saying that because few will understand just the type of year that Ghost Lifestyle had in 2020. That is going to be one of those like historic level years. And to try to match that or try to beat that is going to be extremely hard. But that's not to say that 2021 wasn't a good fucking year. They had a great year, especially around their energy drink launch that happened in the back half of 2020 and really kind of got started in 2021, even though it was a throttled year. But it exceeded every type of expectation that anybody had, even from a super bullish analyst like myself. They fucking crushed it. I mean, honestly, it is the type of full year launch that any energy drink brand would be salivating over. And it's only going to get bigger next year when they kind of take off the governor and let this thing roll with AB InBev's distribution. They also launched into another beverage category late in this year with the protein beverages. I think, again, as that thing builds up its inventory and also builds up its distribution, retail points, and things like that, it's going to be another winner for Ghost Lifestyle. Ghost also got more involved and deeper into the gaming world. I think this is a super interesting space for them, kind of gets them aligned with some different kind of trends that are going on with Web 3.0, and they have quickly become, I think, second, with quickly gaining on the category creating incumbent G Fuel. They also finally jumped into entertainment IP, and I say finally, but actually I like the patience that Ghost Lifestyle had with not maybe going after the entertainment IP yet. Strengthens their brand as a whole, and they aren't having the licensor's IP overshadow Ghost. And I think the Space Jam, I'm saying that as a strategy, not that they're going to keep doing Space Jam. I think they're going to keep going back to the well of that strategy. I think it's going to create a ton of value going forward as Ghost Lifestyle becomes more culturally relevant in the mainstream. I know I have a few handfuls of different entertainment IP that I'd love to see their take on. But what is most impressive from a business X's and O's standpoint is that Ghost Lifestyle, despite all the opportunities that are around them, had kind of stayed in their lane, focused, and stayed within their strategic framework. They also didn't lose their deep level of authenticity and brand values as the company has grown into a substantial business. It's easy for hypergrowth brands to lose themselves within the build and scale process, but Ghost has continuously proven year after year that it's doing things the right way. So just want to end on some final thoughts and just kind of ask and pose the question, what did you think of this year's list? Did you have a different top 5? If you did, I would love to hear about it. And you can do that by engaging with me on my various social media accounts that I leave all the links in the description. If you enjoyed this YouTube video, please hit that like button. If you want to support me even further, I would love if you hit that subscribe button. I have a short-term goal of reaching 2,000 subscribers very soon. You could be a part of that journey. It would mean a lot to me. About 70% of those of you that are watching this right now are not subscribed to my channel, which makes me sad. So make sure you can kind of change that up. But thank you again for tuning into this video, and I'll see you on the next one.